Kacey S. When I was 8, I went to San Diego and watched an orca show at SeaWorld. I thought the trainers were so lucky to get to perform shows with the orcas, and it wasn't until years later that I realized the abuse the orcas go through there. In a survey conducted, everyone in this room has heard of the detrimental effects of keeping orcas in captivity. SeaWorld should better the living conditions for the remaining orcas left in captivity at their parks. First, I will discuss the issue of keeping orcas in captivity. Second, and finally, I will describe the conditions that need to change for the orcas to better their lives from here on. First, let's begin by talking about why keeping orcas in captivity is both inhumane and dangerous. Orcas have many characteristics that make them unfit for captivity. First, Nathan Lump, award-winning editor-in-chief for National Geographic, who has a degree from Harvard University, in an article for National Geographic updated in 2022, says that orcas are highly social organisms. They live together in pods, each with its own unique language used to communicate and hunt. The second reason they are unfit for captivity is that they are large creatures, who are 23 to 32 feet long and weigh up to 12,000 pounds. Third and finally, they typically swim up to 40 miles a day and have the innate drive to swim far and dive deep. The documentary Blackfish exposed the truth behind SeaWorld and followed the life of an orca named Tilikum, who was caught in the North Atlantic in 1983. He was brought to Sealand in Victoria, where he spent 12 hours a day in a dark metal pool with other orcas who would rake him with their teeth. These inhumane conditions led to him killing his first trainer. Kelty Byrne was walking on a swim platform during the show when she slipped and fell into the pool unintentionally. While trying to get up, Tilikum grabbed her leg and pulled her in. Later, SeaWorld voluntarily took Tilikum in for breeding purposes, and he killed 2 more trainers, the most famous being Dawn Brancheau. She was known as the safety guru at SeaWorld, constantly improving her relations with the orcas. So, when trainers heard who had been killed, they were in shock. This tragedy happened in 2010 during a show. Tilikum misheard instructions and therefore was not rewarded with fish. This led to him grabbing Dawn and pinning her at the bottom of the pool. He snapped bones, dislocated limbs, and scalped her. Even 12 years later, SeaWorld has not claimed any responsibility for this vicious attack. Tilikum was not the only orca to show strange behavior. In Blackfish, trainers were interviewed to expose the abnormalities they had witnessed, including having a flopped-over dorsal fin. They would tell park guests that 25% of orcas have this trait, but in reality, less than 1% do. They also stated that orcas live only to about 30 and live longer in captivity because of veterinary care. In all actuality, orcas live equivalent human lifespans, but at SeaWorld, they all died before middle age. The orcas were often transferred between facilities as well, even breaking up the mothers from their babies. The orcas were also put in certain tanks for breeding purposes, and as we mentioned previously, pods do not intermingle because they speak completely different languages. Therefore, orca-on-orca aggression occurred frequently, and many developed zoochosis, repetitive patterns of activity with no obvious function, like self-mutilation. Many statistics can back up the fact that captivity is an unstable environment for orcas. Chris Butler-Stroud, the chief executive at Whale and Dolphin Conservation for over 23 years, who has an MBA in Business Administration and Management from the Open University, in an article for WDC updated in 2022, states that 172 orcas have died in captivity, with 44 being at SeaWorld. Today, 56 remain in captivity in 7 different countries, and 18 are at SeaWorld. Now that I've told you about orca conditions in captivity, I'm going to talk about the ongoing problem, or the solution to this ongoing problem. Both orcas born or living in captivity do not have the skills to live in the wild. In 2019, Russia released 10 orcas back to the wild, and most of them died within a year, due to lack of hunting skills, lung capacity, and no protection from pods. The conditions for the remaining 18 orcas at SeaWorld have also had little change. Ken Story, a journalist who has a master's degree in professional studies, urban and regional planning from Georgetown University, in an article for Orlando Weekly in December 2019, says that the orca theater has been remodeled to resemble the Pacific Northwest. But this does not change the fact that the orcas are living in a box. Proposals to increase the tank size and also provide water treadmills to mimic swimming long distances were canceled by SeaWorld. Even though the orcas no longer perform theatrical shows, orca shows in general are being put on. Trainers still come in contact with the whales, And according to Laurie Borsat, who attended Oxford School of Geography and the Environment, in an article for the British Ecological Society in June 2021, orcas still show many of the same skills they showed in past shows, such as big splashes and spins. Blackfish opened up people's minds to the real SeaWorld, and since then there's been a revolving door of CEOs. Randall L. Waller, a professor at Baylor University who has a PhD in English from Texas A&M University, in a journal article for Sage Journals in November 2019, reports that attendance and profits have declined. Corporate partners have also dropped their affiliation with SeaWorld, and most importantly, they have been forced to end their orca breeding program. Even though SeaWorld will never be able to change its reputation, the money that went into theatrical shows and capturing orcas needs to be put into larger tanks, better care, and stopping orca shows completely. First, I talked about the ongoing problem of orcas in captivity. Second and finally, I said the measures I think SeaWorld should take so the remaining orcas can live comfortably. SeaWorld should better the living conditions for the remaining orcas left in captivity at their parks. Blackfish changed my and many others' perception of SeaWorld, and I hope you all realize how inhumane keeping large mammals like orcas in captivity for our enjoyment really is.